Somebody's ready to go traveling. Good morning, everybody, and it's a sad morning where we're departing the seaborne pursuit. So, cruise portion of our journey has been spectacular, and
Yeah, Doobie, it's sad. Just go back and watch episode 11 for the review. This morning we have things to do and places to be with our new traveling kangaroo and with a Donna Doobie who has now got our sinus crud monkeypox thing. We hang around till just about everybody else has left pursuit, but at 9:45 it's time to go. And on our way to the gangway we give our last hugs and love to Olivia and Juan, and I can't wait for our next adventure with those two. Today we have opted for a private transfer to Santiago and with the option to see some sights in Valparaiso and in central Santiago. Our guide today is Ervand, and the first place he's taking us to is Pablo Neruda's house in Valparaiso. I don't claim to know as much about Neruda as Ted Mosby, but I'll try. Neruda was born in 1904 in southern Chile and was a poet by age of 13. At 16, he came 400 miles north of Santiago with the intention to study French, but fate and his own literary talents would intervene, and he began publishing volumes of poetry to critical acclaim, and as often does with artistic expression, controversy surrounding the level of eroticism expressed in verse. Working internationally and witnessing the horrors and oppression of fascism in Spain, Neruda idealized Russian communist leaders, in part due to the role the communists played in defeating fascism and in the theory that the common man should work for common good and not the enrichment of a few. And running as a communist candidate, won the office of Senate in 1945. After helping to get Gabriel Gonzalez Videla elected, Neruda became an open critic of Videla for the suppression of striking workers and soon became a man with no country and on the run. Exiled in Capri, Neruda did what writers do, create and write. In 1952, Neruda returned to Chile from exile. Neruda also played a key role in the election of Salvador Allende in 1970 and served the Allende government as ambassador to France. In 1971, Pablo Neruda was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. The Swedish Academy honored him for a poetry that, with the action of an elemental force, brings alive a continent's destiny and dreams. But the great poet was already suffering from prostate cancer, and in 1973 succumbed to the disease, or did he? That's what is on his death certificate, but long-standing allegations and somewhat conflicting forensic data point to poisoning, and there are many in Chile who believe the US CIA played a role in the murder of the Nobel laureate for his communist ties and support. Over his life, Neruda published 40 standalone books and collections and over 3,500 poems, renowned for his love poetry that could only be somewhat translated well. The author also had 3 primary homes that can be visited in Chile: La Sabastiana here in Valparaiso, Casa de Isla Negra about an hour south on the sea, and La Chascona in the Bella Vista neighborhood in Santiago. While filming is not allowed in La Sabastiana, the house is filled with unique furnishings hand-selected by Neruda, and the top floor study where he penned so many works in itself is worth the price of admission.
Prison. It is very prison.
As we make our way out of Valparaiso, we see ad hoc vendors of all types with wares set out on blankets or tarps. Ervand tells us that there's a bit of a war between authorities and these non-licensed vendors, and the goods they sell are arranged so that tarps can be easily folded up with goods inside and allow for a quick getaway. We pass through the western wine regions of Chile, and after about an hour or so, we hit the light industrial business parks in the western Santiago suburbs. This is a large city with over 6.2 million people living within the city limits and just around 7 million total population in the metropolitan area. While people have lived in this area for 10,000 years, the city was officially founded in 1541 by Pedro de Valdivia, one of Pizarro's men. Once downtown, we begin a tour of central Santiago on foot at Citizenship Plaza under the fluttering shadow of an enormous Chilean flag. It'd be inappropriate at this spot not to recognize the pain this country faced under the Pinochet military junta. In 1970, Salvador Allende, an avowed communist, won a heated three-way race for the presidency, but with only 38% of the vote, which then was turned over to the Senate under the Chilean Constitution to select the president. During the next 2.5 years, Allende began to move the country to nationalize industry, including mining operations owned by U.S. corporate interests. In addition, the U.S. was actively working to destabilize the Chilean economy. Without a popular mandate, and with an economy teetering, and a giant neighbor to the north overtly and subvertly working against the Allende government, the head of the military, General Augusto Pinochet, moved on Santiago, bombing the presidential palace and taking control of the Chilean government. Allende, trapped, delivered a final defiant speech to Chileans and then shot himself.
It's going faster. Yeah.
It's a man or it's a lady?
Under Pinochet, a systematic and brutal campaign against the socialists and communists commenced, and 3,000 Chileans vanished, while some 38,000 more were imprisoned and tens of thousands went into exile. In 1980, a new constitution was drawn and ratified in Chile, and likely Pinochet thought it would allow the military regime to maintain power by more legitimate means. However, a yes or no vote on the junta in 1988 was no, and the current democratic system that's in place now has allowed Chile to grow as one of the, if not the, most successful economies in South America. But scars remain. We enjoy some excellent coffee and ice cream before heading to the Plaza de Armas, home to the enormous Metropolitan Cathedral, which was built between 1748 and 1906 and replaced the earlier cathedral that was destroyed by an earthquake. We also see the plan of the original layout of Santiago as created by Pedro de Gamboa, who designed a perfect chessboard type of grid for the city.
1646. The plaza is over here, and you see the perfect chessboard. It's a chessboard.
Yeah.
The river, we will see the river next.
As we drive into the Lastarria neighborhood, we get a few tips from Ervand on places to eat close to our hotel.
Liguria.
Yep. Liguria.
There you have ample choices. I mean, not only Italian food, but Chilean food.
Okay.
Local food, international food. And waiters do manage in some English.
Yeah, okay.
Then, the second one, that is my favorite one, would be Republic of Pisco.
Republic of Pisco. I like the name. Yeah.
Republic of Pisco. Right across the hotel. Once we get to the hotel, I will indicate it, point it out where it is. Then just beside that Republic of Pisco, you have Boca Nariz.
Boca
Nariz.
Nariz.
Mouth.
Mouth.
And nose.
Nose. Okay.
Okay, Ervand, you had me at Pisco. So, we'll go through the hotel in another episode. Ervand helped Donna Doobie translate at a pharmacy for some good nasal spray, and so she's down for the count right now, taking a nap. I gave her some space and hit the ATM and the park and castle of Cerro Santa Lucia, just a few blocks away. Santa Lucia Hill is the spot where conquistador Pedro de Valdivia defeated a large but undefined number of indigenous people on December 13, 1540, claiming the land for Spain and St. James. The city of Santiago was then built. It was burned in native revolts, then rebuilt, and Valdivia himself spent a tumultuous next 13 years fighting the native peoples, shuffling back and forth to Cusco following the death of Pizarro, and in general trying to subdue peoples like the Mapuche, who even the Incas could not conquer. In December of 1553, Valdivia met his end after being defeated by the Mapuche in Tucapel. Accounts of his death are varied and could each be in a more mild version of a Game of Thrones episode, but likely he was killed with a blow from a ceremonial club, his heart ripped out of his chest, and bits of it eaten by the warriors who wanted to absorb his fighting spirit. So, the conquistador doesn't always win. Nice! Santa Lucia Park is a much more peaceful place than the Santiago Valdivia fought to keep, and is an oasis of green and flowing and bubbling water in this massive metropolis. The hill is capped by a fortress, and there are shortcuts upstairs, or you can take a more leisurely uphill stroll along wide roads leading to at least 3 intermittent terraces. So entering the park is kind of strange though. There's no fee, but there's a security team and they ideally want an ID and specifically wanted to see a passport. I gave them the "Lo siento, está en el hotel," and they asked where I was from and to sign my name in the book, and well, that was that. I do carry a photo of my passport in my phone if needed, but generally never carry a passport when doing touristy stuff anywhere in the world unless it's absolutely required. Remember the Alhambra? Which takes us to today's safety topic. A lot is made about rampant smartphone theft in Santiago. I had some people suggest take a paper map and never reach for your phone. And maybe if you're in a crowd or in the subway, that may be fair advice, but be reasonable in all things. If you're the only person standing in front of a fountain, you can probably use your phone to take a picture. Oh, and Santa Lucia is a very popular place with young Santiago kids in love, and they all have their phones out continually. To get to the very top of the hill, which has been used as a fort in the 19th century and an astronomical observatory, it gets narrow and the trail is a bit crumbly in places, so it's not recommended if you have mobility issues. But the views of the city are great, and there's plenty of unique architecture to be found everywhere in the park. As you near the top, it kind of reminds me of a version of Tom Sawyer's Island, only with more Spanish. A little hazy today, but you can usually see the Andes from up here, but you do get a great view of Cerro San Cristobal and the teleférico and ascensor that are used to reach the top of the hill. We'll see that in a couple of days.
It's really a cool view of Santiago, though. Glad Donna Doobie didn't do this. But not as glad as she is.
Heading back into the Lastarria district, the street is just loaded with vendors and artists, bars and restaurants, and a very interesting church. The Parroquia de la Veracruz church was set ablaze by arsonists in 2019. While work was done to restore the portions of the small church, the exterior facade, and ensure stability, inside the scars of the fire, the charcoal wood and the smoke have left a stirring, perhaps even more, holy place of worship. Seems like a good time to go back and check on Donna and tell her about the climb she missed out on. Tomorrow we have an early wake-up call, so we head to Holy Moly for a good old-fashioned cheeseburger, and then down into a courtyard full of bars and restaurants for 2-for-1 Pisco Sour happy hour. Hot long day, and the Andes are tomorrow. So we'll say good night, all.